The screaming started before I saw the elephant. Karen's perfectly manicured nails clawed at my pool deck as she scrambled backward, her lawsuit threats dying in her throat. Behind her, a 3-ton baby elephant stood dripping in my chlorinated water, its eyes wild with terror. The overturned zoo van smoldered 30 feet away, its driver unconscious. While Karen, who'd been threatening to sue me for emotional distress just moments before, now faced a creature that could end her complaints permanently. Happened next would prove that sometimes karma arrives in the most unexpected forms, and that the real monster in this story wasn't the one with tusks. Marcus Chen had been having the worst week of his life, and it was only Tuesday. First, his ex-wife had served him with papers demanding increased alimony. Then his contracting business had lost its biggest client to a competitor who'd undercut him by 30%. Now, as he stood in his backyard, trying to enjoy a rare moment of peace beside his newly installed pool, Karen Whitmore was standing at his fence line, her voice shrill enough to shatter glass. "This is completely unacceptable," she shrieked, her perfectly styled blonde hair quivering with indignation. "Your construction noise has been going on for weeks. I have a right to peaceful enjoyment of my property." Marcus closed his eyes and counted to 10. The pool installation had been completed 3 days ago. The only noise now was the gentle hum of the filtration system, barely audible over the ambient sounds of suburban life. But Karen Whitmore didn't deal in facts. She dealt in grievances, and she collected them like some people collected stamps. "Mrs. Whitmore," Marcus said, his voice carefully controlled, "the pool is finished. There's no more construction. Don't you dare patronize me." Karen's voice climbed another octave. "I've documented everything. The early morning deliveries, the machinery, the disruption to my meditation schedule. My lawyer says I have grounds for a lawsuit." Of course she did. In the 18 months since Karen had moved into the McMansion next door, she'd threatened to sue Marcus no fewer than 7 times. His hedge was too tall. His garbage cans were 2 inches into the easement. His teenage daughter played music too loud. The woman was a walking lawsuit factory, and Marcus was her favorite target. "You know what?" Karen continued, her voice rising. "To a crescendo that probably violated noise ordinances in 3 counties, I'm calling the city, the HOA, and my attorney. This harassment ends now." She turned on her designer heels and stalked toward the gate that separated their properties, a gate that, according to the property survey Marcus had commissioned specifically because of Karen's complaints, was entirely on his side of the property line. She'd been using it for months, treating his backyard like her personal shortcut to the community mailboxes. "Mrs. Whitmore," Marcus called after her, "that gate is on my property. You're trespassing." Karen froze mid-stride. When she turned back, her face was flushed with rage. "Excuse me? I had a survey done. That gate is 3 feet into my property. You've been trespassing every time you use it. That's ridiculous. I've been using that gate for over a year. Doesn't matter, it's still trespassing." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Then her eyes narrowed with the calculating look Marcus had learned to fear. "Fine, we'll see what the police have to say about your threats." She pulled out her phone, but before she could dial, the world exploded into chaos. The sound hit them first, a grinding metallic screech, followed by the thunderous crash of something massive hitting the ground. Marcus's head snapped toward the street just in time to see a white van with Metro Zoo emblazoned on its side flip over the curb and slam into the Jamersons' oak tree. The impact sent branches raining down like confetti, and the van's rear doors burst open with a bang that echoed through the neighborhood. "Oh my God," Karen whispered, her phone forgotten in her hand. Marcus was already moving toward the street when he heard ETA sound he'd only heard in nature documentaries, a deep, rumbling trumpet that seemed to vibrate through his chest. He stopped dead in his tracks as a gray shape emerged from the back of the overturned van. It was a baby elephant. Not baby in the cute miniature sense, but baby in the 3,000-pound, 4 feet tall, very much alive and terrified sense. The animal stood in the middle of Maple Street, its massive head swinging back and forth as it tried to process its new surroundings. "Jesus Christ," Marcus breathed. The elephant's ears flapped frantically as it took a tentative step forward, then another. Its trunk swayed hypnotically as it tested the air, and Marcus could see the fear in its intelligent eyes. This wasn't some cartoon character, this was a frightened wild animal that could crush a car without effort. Karen, meanwhile, had apparently forgotten about her lawsuit threats. She stood frozen beside Marcus's pool, her mouth hanging open as she stared at the elephant. Is that real? Very real, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. And very dangerous. The elephant took another step, its massive feet making soft thuds on the asphalt. It was moving toward them, drawn perhaps by the smell of water from the pool or simply seeking shelter from the chaos of the crash. Marcus could see the zoo van's driver slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious but breathing. We need to call 911, Marcus said, reaching for his phone. I'm already on it, Karen said, her voice shaking as she dialed. Yes, hello, we have an emergency on Maple Street. A zoo van crashed, and there's an elephant loose. A real elephant. No, I'm not joking. The elephant was closer now, maybe 50 feet away. Marcus could see the intricate patterns of its skin, the way its trunk moved, constantly sampling the air. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. They're sending animal control and an ambulance, Karen reported, her voice tight with fear. But they said to stay away from it. No kidding, Marcus muttered. The elephant had reached the edge of his property now, its massive bulk casting a shadow over the perfectly manicured lawn. It seemed to be considering something, its head tilting as it studied the pool area. Maybe it's thirsty, Karen said. Elephants need a lot of water, right? It's not a pet, Karen. It's a wild animal that could. The elephant made its decision. With surprising grace for something so large, it stepped over the low decorative fence that bordered Marcus's property and walked directly toward the pool. Each step shook the ground beneath their feet. Oh no, Karen whispered. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Marcus grabbed her arm. We need to get inside, now. But Karen was rooted to the spot, mesmerized by the approaching elephant. It was 20 feet away now, close enough that Marcus could smell its wild, earthy scent. Close enough to see the coarse hairs on its hide and the way its massive ears moved like fans. Karen, Marcus hissed. Move. She finally snapped out of her trance and stumbled backward. But her designer heels caught on the pool deck's textured surface. She went down hard, her phone clattering across the concrete. The elephant, startled by the sudden movement and noise, let out another trumpet, this one much louder and more agitated. Don't move, Marcus said, his voice barely audible. Just stay still. The elephant was directly beside the pool now, its trunk extended toward the water. It was so close that Marcus could have reached out and touched it. Instead, he stood frozen, acutely aware that he was sharing his backyard with a creature that could end his life with a casual swipe of its trunk. Karen, sprawled on the pool deck, was whimpering softly. The elephant's head swiveled toward her, and for a moment the two stared at each other, the woman who'd spent months threatening lawsuits and the 3-ton animal that had just escaped captivity. The elephant took a step toward Karen. That's when Marcus noticed the blood on its leg and the way it favored its left side. The animal was hurt, probably from the crash. Hurt and scared and surrounded by strange smells and sounds. And Karen, with her bright clothes and panicked movements, was drawing its attention. The elephant took another step. Karen's whimpering turned into a full-throated scream as she scrambled backward on her hands and knees, leaving a trail of blood from where she'd scraped her palms on the concrete. Help me, she screamed. Marcus, help me. The same woman who'd been threatening to sue him 5 minutes ago was now begging for his help. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus, but he was already moving, grabbing the pool skimmer from its hook on the fence. Hey, he shouted at the elephant, waving the long-handled tool. Over here. The elephant's massive head turned toward him, and Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. Up close, the animal was even more imposing. Its eyes were intelligent but wild, and Marcus could see the confusion and fear in them. That's right, he said, his voice shaking. Look at me, not her. The elephant took a step toward him, and Marcus realized he'd just made a terrible mistake. He'd gotten the animal's attention, but he had no idea what to do with it. The pool skimmer felt like a toothpick in his hands. Behind him, Karen had managed to get to her feet and was backing toward the sliding glass doors that led into Marcus's house. Open the door, she screamed. Let me in. But Marcus's attention was entirely focused on the elephant. It was studying him with those intelligent eyes, and he had the unsettling feeling that it was trying to decide whether he was a threat or just an obstacle. That's when the elephant made its move. But the chaos that followed would haunt Marcus's dreams for years to come. The first responders arrived like an invading army police cars, fire trucks, an ambulance, and 2 more zoo vehicles that screeched to a halt outside his house. Within minutes, his quiet suburban street had transformed into a 3-ring circus, complete with news vans and gawking neighbors pressed against the police tape. "Sir, we need you to step back," barked Sergeant Rodriguez, a stocky man with kind eyes and no patience for civilian heroics. "This is now a crime scene." Crime scene. Marcus stood dripping in his own backyard, watching as zoo personnel in khaki uniforms swarmed around his pool. Nobody committed a crime. It was an accident. An exotic animal is loose in a residential area. Until we determine what caused that van to crash, this is a potential criminal investigation. Dr. Sarah Chuno, relation to Marcus, despite sharing his surname, knelt beside the pool where the elephant had finally settled. She was the zoo's head veterinarian, a small woman with graying hair and hands that moved with practiced efficiency as she prepared a tranquilizer dart. "How long has she been unconscious?" Dr. Chen asked, glancing up at Marcus. "She, the elephant's female, Kessie, she's 18 months old, born in captivity. Her mother rejected her, so she's been hand-raised by our staff." Dr. Chen's voice carried a weight of professional concern mixed with personal affection. "She's normally very calm around humans, but trauma can make any animal unpredictable." Marcus looked at the elephant Kessie with new eyes. She wasn't just a dangerous wild animal that had invaded his space. She was a baby, a massive 3,000-pound baby who'd been torn from everything familiar and thrown into a terrifying new world. "Will she be okay?" The question came from Karen, who stood wrapped in a towel someone had given her, looking smaller and more vulnerable than Marcus had ever seen her. Dr. Chen studied Karen with professional interest. "You're the one who made contact with her." Yes, I just wanted to help." "That was incredibly foolish," Dr. Chen said, but her tone wasn't harsh. "You may have saved her life by keeping her calm." Karen's eyes filled with tears. I don't know why I did that. I'm terrified of animals. I won't even pet dogs. Sometimes crisis reveals who we really are," Dr. Chen said, checking Kessie's pulse. "The good news is that she's stable. The bad news is that moving her is going to be complicated." Marcus surveyed the wreckage of his backyard. His new pool was contaminated with blood and elephant waste. His fence was destroyed. His lawn looked like a battlefield. The insurance adjuster was going to have a field day with this claim. "How long before you can move her?" he asked. "We need to wait for the crane," Dr. Chen explained. "Kessie weighs 3,000 pounds. We can't just haul her out with a rope, so she's staying in my pool. For now, yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. We'll compensate you for any damage, of course." Marcus almost laughed. Compensation, as if money could restore the peace he'd worked so hard to build. As if a check could undo the fact that his sanctuary had become a zoo exhibit. "Mr. Chen," a new voice, joined the conversation. Marcus turned to see a woman in her 30s with auburn hair and a press badge hanging from her neck. "I'm Jessica Torres from Channel 7 News. Could I ask you a few questions about what happened?" "No comment, but you're the homeowner." "People want to know." I said no comment. Marcus's voice carried an edge that made the reporter step back. "What about you, ma'am?" Jessica turned to Karen. "You're the one who touched the elephant, right? Our viewers would love to hear about your experience." Karen looked terrified. "She's not giving interviews," Marcus said firmly. "Neither of us are." Jessica's eyes narrowed. "Are you speaking for her? Because from what I've heard, you two aren't exactly friends." The comment hit its mark. Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. Of course, someone had told the reporter about his ongoing feud with Karen, probably Mrs. Patterson from across the street. "That's none of your business," Marcus said. "Actually, it is my business," Jessica replied. "To neighbors who've been feuding for months, suddenly brought together by a crisis. That's a great human interest story, especially with the lawsuit angle." Karen's face went white. "Lawsuit? Oh, you didn't know?" Jessica smiled with predatory satisfaction. I spoke to several neighbors who said Mrs. Whitmore here has been threatening to sue Mr. Chen for months. Something about construction noise and property disputes. Kind of ironic that she's now standing in his backyard, isn't it? Marcus watched Karen's face crumble. The woman who'd been so fierce in her threats, so confident in her grievances, suddenly looked like a child caught in a lie. I never, ... double quotes Karen started, then stopped. I mean, I was just, ... You were just what? Jessica pressed. Just threatening legal action against the man who's now helping you. Leave her alone, Marcus said, surprising himself with the V in his voice. Jessica turned back to him. So you are defending her? Even after she's been threatening to sue you? I'm defending basic human decency. She's been through a trauma. Back off. Marcus. Karen's voice was barely a whisper. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He looked at her directly for the first time since the elephant had collapsed. Whatever problems we've had, nobody deserves to be harassed by vultures. Jessica's smile faltered. I'm just doing my job. Your job is to report news, not manufacture drama. Find another story. Sergeant Rodriguez stepped between them. Ma'am, I need you to move back behind the tape. This is an active scene. Jessica retreated, but Marcus could see her already working her phone, probably calling her editor with the feuding neighbors angle. By tonight, his personal business would be on the evening news. Thank you, Karen said quietly once the reporter was gone. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get worse before it gets better. As if summoned by his words, a new commotion erupted near the street. A man in an expensive suit was arguing with the police officers manning the perimeter. Even from a distance, Marcus could hear the raised voices. That's my client, the man was shouting. I have a right to speak with her. Karen's face went pale. Oh no, Richard, my attorney. I called him this morning about ... She trailed off, unable to meet Marcus's eyes. About suing me, yes. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. When you called him, what exactly did you tell him? That I was documenting harassment, that you were making threats about trespassing, that I wanted to explore legal options. As the full implications hit her, he's going to think, oh God, he's going to think you hurt me. Richard Morrison, Esquire, was indeed drawing that exact conclusion. Marcus could see the lawyer's face from across the yard, the kind of expression a shark might wear when it smelled blood in the water. Mrs. Whitmore, Richard called out, his voice carrying over the chaos. What happened? Are you injured? Karen looked at Marcus with panic in her eyes. What do I tell him? The truth. He won't believe the truth. He'll think I'm covering for you. His worst suspicions, blood on her clothes, cuts on her arms, standing in Marcus's backyard with emergency vehicles everywhere. Karen. Richard had somehow talked his way past the police tape and was striding toward them. Don't say anything. Richard's voice was sharp with authority. Mr. Chen, I'm advising you that anything you say can and will be used against you. My client is injured and clearly in distress. Your client fell down. Richard's eyes narrowed. An elephant, right? Very convenient. Look around, counselor. You think I staged this? For the first time, Richard seemed to notice the chaos surrounding them. The zoo vehicles, the massive crane being positioned over the pool, the very real elephant floating in chlorinated water. What exactly happened here? A zoo van crashed, Karen said. The elephant escaped and came into Marcus's yard. I was already here when it happened. You were here. Why were you here? Karen glanced at Marcus, then back at her lawyer. I was discussing the property line dispute, the one where he threatened you with trespassing charges? He didn't threaten me, Richard. He just pointed out that the gate was on his property. And then what happened? Then the van crashed and everything went crazy. Richard studied the scene, his legal mind clearly working through the implications. And how did you get injured? I fell when the elephant came toward us. Marcus helped me. He helped you. Yes, the same man you wanted to sue for harassment helped you when you were injured by a wild animal. Karen's voice was barely audible. Yes. Marcus watched Richard's face as the lawyer processed this information. Sir, Dr. Chen approached them, her expression grave. I need to ask you both some questions about Kessie's behavior. We're trying to determine if she was injured before or during the crash. Before, Karen said immediately. She was limping when she The coffee invitation never happened. By Thursday morning, Marcus's life had become a media circus that made the initial elephant incident look like a minor disturbance. The feuding neighbors united by elephant story had gone viral, spawning think pieces about community, forgiveness, and the healing power of nature. His phone hadn't stopped ringing. His email inbox was flooded with interview requests. 3 different production companies had called about movie rights, and Karen had disappeared. She's not answering her door. Over breakfast, her car's gone. It's like she vanished. Emma, 17, and possessed of the brutal honesty that only teenagers could muster, looked up from her cereal. Maybe she's embarrassed. I mean, everyone's calling her the crazy neighbor lady who got saved by an elephant. She's not crazy, Dad. You literally called her crazy like 2 weeks ago. You said she was certifiably insane, and that you were, considering moving just to get away from her. Marcus winced. That was before she had a breakdown in your backyard, before I realized she was just... Marcus struggled for the words. Lonely, hurt, acting out because she didn't know how else to connect with people. Are we talking about Karen, or are we talking about you? What's that supposed to mean? You work, you come home, you hide in your house. The only time you talk to neighbors is when you're complaining about something. Sound familiar? Marcus opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. His daughter had a point. Maybe he and Karen had more in common than he'd wanted to admit. The difference is I wasn't threatening to sue anyone, he said weakly. No, you were just fantasizing about moving to a different state. Much healthier. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Dr. Chen from the zoo. Need to speak with you. Urgent. Marcus frowned. I have to go. Something about the elephant. Her name is Kessie, Emma said, and Dad, when you find Karen, maybe apologize for disappearing too. She's probably wondering why you haven't checked on her. The Metro Zoo was a sprawling complex that Marcus had visited maybe twice in his life, both times when Emma was much younger. Now, walking through its administrative offices, where everyone spoke in urgent whispers and moved with purpose he couldn't understand, Dr. Chen's office was cramped and cluttered, every surface covered with files, medical equipment, and photos of various animals. She looked up from her computer as he entered, her expression grim. Mr. Chen, thank you for coming. We have a problem. Is Kessie okay? Kessie is fine. She's recovering beautifully, actually. The problem is, what we found when we examined her more thoroughly. Dr. Chen turned her computer screen toward him. The image showed an X-ray of what Marcus assumed was the elephant's torso. Even to his untrained eye, something looked wrong. These are foreign objects, Dr. Chen said, pointing to several bright spots on the X-ray. Metal fragments. Someone has been feeding Kessie things that could have killed her. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Someone at the zoo? We don't think so. These fragments are consistent with coins, jewelry, small metal objects, the kind of things visitors might throw into an exhibit. But don't you have barriers? Security, we do. But determined people find ways around them. The problem is that Kessie is particularly trusting of humans. She approaches the barriers, and people see that as an invitation to interact. Marcus studied the X-ray again. How long has this been going on? Based on the X-ray, months? Maybe longer. We've been wondering why she's been having digestive issues, why she's been less active. Now we know. So what does this have to do with me? Dr. Chen's expression grew even more serious. Mr. Chen, your interaction with Kessie and Mrs. Whitmore's interaction with her has generated enormous media attention. The zoo's visitor numbers have increased by 300% since Tuesday. It would be if the visitors were coming to learn about wildlife conservation. But they're not. They're coming to see the hero elephant who brought 2 neighbors together. They're treating this like a feel-good story, not a serious wildlife education opportunity. Marcus was beginning to understand. And more visitors means more opportunities for people to feed her dangerous objects. Exactly, we've had to post extra security around her exhibit, but we can't watch everyone all the time. Yesterday alone, we confiscated a cell phone, 3 rings, and a car key from people trying to feed them to Kessie. A car key. She nearly killed an endangered animal for a photo opportunity. Marcus felt sick. What do you need me to do? We need you to help us control the narrative. You and Mrs. Whitmore are the human faces of this story. If you could make a public statement asking people to respect wildlife and visit responsibly, I'll do it, but I'll need to find Karen first. Mr. Chen, I have to ask, how well do you know Mrs. Whitmore? Not well. Why? Because she's been here every day since the incident. She arrives when we open, stays until we close, and spends every moment watching Kessie. Marcus stared at her. She's been here. I thought she'd disappeared. She's been in the elephant house from dawn to dusk. She's even been asking our staff about elephant behavior and care. Has she been bothering people? The opposite. She's been incredibly helpful. She's spotted several visitors trying to feed Kessie inappropriate objects and alerted security. She's like an unofficial guardian. Marcus felt a complex mix of emotions: relief that Karen was safe, guilt that he hadn't looked harder for, hurt, and something else, a recognition that maybe Karen's transformation was more profound than he'd realized. Can I see her? She's in the elephant house, building C, past the gift shop. But Mr. Chen, she's been through something traumatic. Might not be ready to discuss public statements or media appearances. The elephant house was a marvel of modern zoo design, with soaring ceilings and naturalistic habitats that made the animals feel less like prisoners and more like honored guests. Marcus found Karen exactly where Dr. Chen had said she'd be sitting, on a bench directly across from Kessie's enclosure, a notebook open in her lap, watching the elephant with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Karen. She looked up, and Marcus was shocked by what he saw. The perfectly groomed suburban socialite was gone. Karen's hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked younger, more authentic, and somehow more beautiful than he'd ever seen her. Marcus, I wondered when you'd find me. I needed to understand what happened to me out there. Marcus sat down beside her. On the bench, what did happen to you? Karen was quiet for a long moment, watching Kessie move through her habitat with surprising grace. I touched something wild and wonderful, and it changed me. I can't explain it better than that. Dr. Chen says you've been here every day. I have, learning, watching, trying to understand what I felt when I looked into her eyes. And what did you feel? Karen's voice was barely a whisper. Recognition, like she saw something in me that I'd forgotten existed. Something good. Marcus followed her gaze to Kessie, who was using her trunk to manipulate a puzzle toy designed to keep her mentally stimulated. The elephant's movements were deliberate, intelligent, almost human in their problem-solving approach. She's incredible, Marcus said. She's dying. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. She's been in pain for months, maybe years, but they can fix it, right? Surgery they're trying. But every day brings new visitors, new idiots who think feeding an elephant is cute. The media attention we generated is killing her. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Dr. Chen wants us to make a public statement. Ask people to visit responsibly. I know she talked to me about it yesterday. Karen closed her notebook and looked at him directly. Marcus, I can't do it. Why not? Because I'm afraid. 3 days ago, I was threatening to sue you over a fence gate. Now I'm supposed to be some kind of animal welfare advocate. People will see right through it, will they? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who genuinely cares about that elephant. I do care. That's the problem. I care so much, it's consuming me. I've been here for 3 days straight, and I can't stop thinking about her. About all the animals here, about how we treat them, how we use them for our entertainment, and then discard them when we're bored. Marcus saw tears in Karen's eyes. That's not fraudulent. That's compassion. It's guilt. I'm 42 years old, Marcus. I've lived my entire life thinking only about myself, my house, my lawn, my property values, my rights. I've never once considered the impact of my actions on anything else. Maybe you're just supposed to be. The death threats started on Friday. Marcus first noticed them in his email inbox at 6 a.m., mixed in with the usual flood of interview requests and fan mail. Short, vicious messages calling him a liberal elite and an animal rights terrorist. By noon, they'd migrated to his business voicemail, his social media accounts, and somehow his home address. You and that crazy bitch need to mind your own business, read one hand-delivered note he found taped to his front door. Animals belong in cages or on dinner plates. Keep pushing your agenda and see what happens. Dad, you need to call the police and tell them that someone knows where we live and is threatening us because of the elephant thing. Marcus looked at his daughter's worried face and felt the familiar weight of parental responsibility. Until this blows over, I'm not running away, and neither should you. This isn't about running away. It's about being smart. Being smart would have been staying out of it in the first place, Emma said. But you didn't. You chose to help Karen and the elephant. Now you need to see it through. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. Karen's name appeared on the screen. Marcus. Thank God, are you getting them too? Death threats. Yeah, started this morning. Someone threw a brick through my living room window. There was a note tied to it. Marcus felt his blood run cold. What did it say? That elephants aren't the only things that can be put down. Karen's voice was shaking. Marcus, I'm scared. Where are you now? At the zoo, I thought maybe. I don't know. Maybe being around people would be safer. Stay there. I'm coming. Marcus found Karen in the zoo's security office, surrounded by concerned staff members and 2 police officers. She looked smaller than he'd ever seen her, wrapped in a zoo sweatshirt that was 3 sizes too large. Said, We're recommending she consider staying elsewhere for a few days. I'm not leaving, Karen said firmly. They want to silence me, make me disappear. That's exactly why I need to stay. Someone threw a brick through your window. This isn't just online trolling anymore. I know, but if I run now, what happens to Kessie? What happens to all the animals here? Dr. Chen spoke up from the corner of the room. Mrs. Whitmore, we appreciate your dedication, but your safety is more important than... No, it's not. Karen's voice was steel. 3 days ago, I was a bitter, selfish woman who cared about nothing but my own petty grievances. Now, I have a chance to do something that matters. I'm not giving that up because some cowards want to scare me. Marcus studied Karen's face and saw something he'd never seen before: unshakable resolve. The woman who'd once called the city about his garbage cans was now willing to risk her life for an elephant. Then we do this together, he said, but we do it smart. Officer Martinez looked between them. Mr. Chen, are you sure about this? These threats are credible. We've traced some of them to known extremist groups. Extremist groups? Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him. Over a zoo elephant. It's not about the elephant, Martinez explained. It's about what you two have come to represent. The viral video of Mrs. Whitmore's speech has been picked up by animal rights organizations, environmental groups, social justice activists. You've become symbols of something bigger than you realize. Symbols of what? Change. Compassion. The idea that people can transform themselves and society. There are forces out there that see that as a threat to their worldview. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. So what are you saying? We should just give up? I'm saying you need to understand what you're up against. This isn't just about Karen's speech anymore. You've been adopted as poster children for a movement you didn't choose to join. Dr. Chen's tablet chimed with an urgent notification. Her face went pale as she read, We have a problem, a big one. She turned the screen toward them. It showed a live stream from Kessie's enclosure, but something was wrong. The elephant was lying on her side, her breathing labored, her trunk moving weakly. What's happening to her? Karen was on her feet instantly. We don't know. She was fine an hour ago. Our veterinary team is on the way. Karen was already moving toward the door. I need to see her. Ma'am, you can't. I need to see her now. Marcus had never heard Karen use that tone before. It was the voice of someone who would not be denied, who would tear down walls if necessary to reach her destination. They reached Kessie's enclosure as the veterinary team was setting up their equipment. The elephant was clearly in distress, her massive body convulsing with pain. A small crowd of visitors had gathered, their phones out, recording everything. Get them away from her, Karen said, her voice deadly quiet. Ma'am, this is a public area. Get them away from her, or I will. Marcus saw the security guard's expression change as he recognized the viral video star. Yes, ma'am, right away. As the crowd was dispersed, Dr. Chen knelt beside Kessie, running her hands over the elephant's abdomen. She's blocked. Something's obstructing her digestive system. Can you fix it? We're going to try. But Marcus, Karen, ... you need to see this. Dr. Chen held up a small metal object she'd extracted from Kessie's mouth. It was a coin, but not just any coin. It was spray-painted gold and had a message scratched into its surface for the elephant lovers. Someone deliberately fed her this, Dr. Chen said. Someone wanted to hurt her. Karen's face went white. Because of us, because of what we said. We don't know that. Yes, we do. Karen's voice was breaking. Someone is trying to kill her to get back at us. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Who would do this? Someone who wants to prove that caring about animals is stupid, Karen said. Someone who wants to show that compassion is weakness. Dr. Chen was already preparing an IV. We need to get her to surgery immediately. The blockage is severe. Will she survive? Marcus asked. I don't know, but we're going to do everything we can, as Kessie was loaded onto a transport gurney. Karen did something that surprised everyone. She approached the unconscious elephant and placed her hand on the massive head. I'm so sorry, she whispered. This is my fault. I should have protected you better. Karen, this isn't your fault, Marcus said. I turned her into a symbol instead of protecting her as an individual. You gave her a voice, you tried to save her, and now she's dying because of it. The transport team was ready to move. As they wheeled Kessie toward the surgical suite, Karen walked alongside, her hand never leaving the elephant's head. Ma'am, you can't come into surgery, one of the technicians said. I know, but I need her to know she's not alone. Marcus watched Karen bend down and whisper something in Kessie's ear. The elephant's eye opened slightly, and for a moment, Marcus could have sworn he saw recognition there. What did you tell her? He asked, as they watched the surgical team disappear through the doors. I told her I loved her, and that I was going. To make sure whoever did this paid for it, the determination in Karen's voice was absolute. Marcus realized that the woman who'd once threatened to sue him over property lines was now declaring war on whoever had tried to murder an elephant. How do we find them? He asked. We start with the threats, cross-reference them with today's. Visitor logs, check security footage. Someone who was angry enough to send us death threats was probably angry enough to poison Kessie. And if we find them, Karen's smile was cold. Then they learned that the crazy bitch they'd been threatening is a lot more dangerous than they thought. Dr. Chen emerged from the surgical suite 20 minutes later, her scrubs stained with blood. She's stable. We removed the coin and several other objects, including what appears to be a small battery. Will she recover? Too early to tell. The next 24 hours will be critical. But Karen, Marcus, there's something else you need to know. What? This wasn't random. The objects were all wrapped in tissue paper with messages inside. Someone planned this. Someone wanted to make a statement. What kind of messages? Dr. Chen handed them a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a small piece of paper with neat handwriting. Bleeding heart liberals kill everything they touch. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. There are more, 4 more, all with similar messages. Karen took the evidence bag, her hand steady. Despite the magnitude of what they were seeing, so they know who we are. They know what we've done, and they're willing to kill an innocent animal to prove a point. The police will handle this, Dr. Chen said. You both need to step back and let them investigate. No, Karen's voice was final. This is personal now. They want to hurt us. Fine, but they used Kessie to do it. They turned her into a weapon against us. That's unforgivable. Marcus saw something in Karen's eyes that he'd never seen before. Not just determination, but something deeper. A kind of righteous fury that would not be satisfied with police reports and legal proceedings. Karen, what are you thinking?
I'm
thinking that whoever did this made a mistake. They think we're weak. They think caring about some